Space, as famously said by Starfleet Captain James T. Picard, is the last frontier. But even within that, there's various levels of space travel that people and societies could be capable of, and that's what the Kardashev Scale is all about. Is your technology something that can get you planetarily around the world, or maybe even through your solar system, or maybe even on a galactic scale? And that's what the Kardashev Scale, as Russian cosmonomer, astronomer, but Russian, right? So cosmonomer. Kardashev basically said, this is how we're going to measure it. So this game is named after that, not after any of the Kardashian family. It's very confusing. It's a terrible name for a game, but I like the cover. It's a rock, paper, scissors style game, and it's published by WizKids. So let's see what it's all about, and I'll give you my thoughts. Here's an example setup of Kardashev Scale. You'll see that there are 3 people, each that have a little action selection dial that they'll be using over the course of the game. And the main thing in the center of the board is an array of cards, a setup of planetary, stellar, and galactic cards. These are the cards that players will be purchasing for these resources to earn victory points. Once a player has 25 victory point values worth of cards in front of them, that'll trigger the end of the game. And then anything that for bonus victory points that these cards might score will fire off. The person with those points is the winner. How does this work? Well, each player, this is an example of a dial that's not assembled. Each player is going to select one of the 4 actions to gather red, blue, or green resources, or to build a card. This is a rock, paper, scissors type mechanism. So you can think of these 3 resources as the rock, paper, the scissors. The rock, the paper, and the scissors, which took me too long to figure out. So each player will have their dial set to an action, and then every player will simultaneously flip over. So in this case, we'll see that the red resource, which looks like a rock, is going to beat these 2 green ones, which look like scissors. So this player up here will win 2 what are called summits. So they'll get 2 resources for winning this summit, and then they'll get 2 resources for winning this summit over here. So they'll have scored 4 red resources for the round. These 2 greens have lost to the red, so they will not get anything, but this is a push or a tie between them, so each player will get 1 resource for a push. Every player will then flip over their dials and secretly choose the next action and then reveal them. Let's say this is it here, blue, red, and green. Well, in this case, paper beats rock, so they're able to get 2 blue resources, but loses to green. Paper loses to scissors, so gets nothing from that one. So you're always going to compare to your 2 neighbors. Whether you're playing a 5 or 6 player game or 2 or 3, you're only going to compare to your direct neighbors. So in this case, this player gets 2 red resources for winning against here, but losing to here, and then this person would get 2 green resources, once again, for winning 1 summit, losing 1 summit. The next action that you can do on your turn is to do the build a card action, or what is called advancing. When a player reveals an advancing action, they will take the resources that match the cost of a card and then purchase that card and put it in front of them. This will earn them victory points and also will give them some different ability. In this case, when advancing, you may look at the top advancement card of any deck and choose to purchase it or put on the bottom of the card. These things will give you more resources, or they'll give you scoring victory point conditions. This one will allow you to spend excess resources and put resources on here to count as endgame points. Now, the thing is that you always have to build 2 planetary cards in order to be able to build 1 stellar card on top of that. So you have to have lower level cards in order to build higher ones, and it's going to pyramid up. So if I had 3 of these basic level ones, I could build 2 of these middle ones, and eventually I could build 1 of these galactic. And you have to keep adding to the width of your pyramid, the higher that you want to build. But at some point you'll trigger 25 points, at which point you do all the endgame scoring, and that's Kardashev Scale. The word that comes to mind when I think of Kardashev Scale is surprising, and I'm going to make this kind of the theme of my review. This game has a lot of surprises for me. First of all, it is a surprise that I enjoy it. This is a mix of mechanisms that I don't find terribly interesting. Rock, paper, scissors, not my favorite mechanism. And then this very Splendor type feeling of collecting resources and then paying resources to buy a card. That's fine, right? But it surprises me that these 2 merge together really well. I enjoy it. I'm also surprised that I've seldom felt like I was ever locked out of getting resources on a turn. Every turn that you reveal the dials, that's called a summit. I think that's not terribly intuitive naming, right, theming of it or whatever, but you reveal your action dial at a summit. And it's very rare that you chose green and both of the people next to you chose red and you get nothing for a whole round. But when you play this game, typically the rounds will go very quick. So even if you are shut out for a round, it's just not that long before you turn the dials and say, okay, let's go again. What I often find is you might win one, lose one, or win one tie, or have two ties, or something like this. So you're often getting resources, and because you're choosing the dial, you're getting the resources you wanted. I think it's also a surprise that this game looks really neat. Like, I think they invested well into the artwork. They invested into the cover image, I think is super cool. The card art is really enjoyable. The name is certainly a surprise. I was never expecting to see a name called that because I don't think it's a terribly good name. But the other thing that surprises me is that for a simultaneous reveal game, I don't think that this game scales well at the higher player counts. It goes up to 6 players. And I would not recommend that. First of all, the pieces, there's not enough resources, barely sometimes for a 4-player game. And so to play up to 6 is ridiculous. Our 5-player game of it, we were actively sitting there counting out, okay, do we have enough? Some cards let you spend resources and you put tokens on top of it to mark victory points. And then we had to change those out for different color pieces because you're not supposed to run out of them on the cards. It was a mess. There's not enough pieces in here. I don't know if it's supposed to be piece limited. I couldn't find that in the rule book, or if they just didn't include enough. But it doesn't seem like it's enough for 5 to 6 people. Also, for a simultaneous game, there's a lot of waiting because people are comparing getting the resources in a higher player count game. That part's quick. But when someone is building a card, you sit there, you have a first player token, a priority token for buying the card. And then you have to go around in order. And once you kind of remove that simultaneous nature from the card purchasing, in a higher player count game, it really slows down the game because the turns can be as quick as flip, oh, green, red, and blue, get your resources, next turn. But when you spend 3 times as long waiting for someone to buy a card and then you remind them, hey, you're purchasing right now. Oh, it's me. I thought you were, okay, cool, got it. I can't buy a card because now the previous 3 people bought the cards I was wanting. That part doesn't scale terribly well. Plus, really quick, here's the positive mixed with the negative. Positive, I really like the card powers in this game. Some of the card powers give you more resources. Fantastic. Win a blue summit, get an extra blue resource. Tie a red summit, get extra red resources. I love it. That makes you kind of lean different ways of which type of resources you want to gather when you do the summit, the flip thing. But there are some cards that I think are so good, that are so awesome to have. If I win a green summit, after I get my green resources, I can also purchase a card. I love it. But I don't love when other people have it, because I'm sitting there, okay, I'm going to buy a card this round. Oh, they won a green summit, and so they get to purchase ahead of me, even though the person here has the priority first player token, but you resolve getting resources first, then the buying card action, so they won the green gather resources, and then they get to build one. And then this person gets to build a card, and then I finally get to build one. And somehow I went from like almost being first in the purchasing turn order to later, because multiple people have those types of cards and powers. I don't love that. I don't love that in a higher player count game. I don't mind that with 2 or 3 players or whatever. That's great. So for a simultaneous reveal action game to not scale well at the higher player count is really surprising. That is a drag against the game. But as I said, I like it. The game is built in such a way that you will get resources fairly regularly. You will buy cards fairly regularly. You will get special powers that make you feel kind of fun and unique, and I really like that. Will you sometimes forget to activate them? Yes, that's kind of on you to keep an eye on your tableau. I even like the fact that you have to buy multiple of the level 1 cards in order to be able to build a level 2 card atop it. And then you have to have multiple level 2s to build a level 3 on top of that. I think that's smart because it keeps you interested and invested in what the lower level cards are. They're worth fewer points, but they are also will give you more of those active abilities, whereas the level 2 and 3s are usually more about having points or scoring points for different symbols that you've collected, or turning in resources to put tokens on top of the card for victory points at the end of the game. So someone can trigger the 25 victory point endgame, but you've got 29 points because you've collected little symbols and you've gotten bonus points for those in your scoring. I like that a lot. I like that when someone chooses the build a card action, when you reveal the summit, whatever it's called, when you reveal it, you will always win against the build a card action. So that's a guaranteed 2 resources you'll get. There's a good flow of resources. There's a good flow of building cards, and I enjoy it. But the worst game of this that I had was the 5-player game because people were so uninterested with the downtime, with the cards that they wanted constantly getting purchased. There's also a couple of take that cards in here, which I promptly removed because I don't feel like they added any interest to the game. Destroy somebody else's card, destroy somebody else's resource. Gone. Those are gone from my game because I'd rather just play this, and I gave it a few tries, but if I'm going to play this again, I'm going to definitely just have the cards that give you more active powers and stuff because it's better to have resources. I'm surprised that I like this as much as I do. There's some real drags against it, but I'm going to give this game a 7.5. If this sounds interesting to you, you might like it. If you like rock, paper, scissors, race for the galaxy's splendor, kind of mushed up into a small box that's not too difficult to teach, you might enjoy this one. Be aware of the complaints that I have about it, and I would really not recommend you play it with 5 people or 6 people, but that's Kardashev Scale, so hope that was helpful. Thanks for coming by. Another Dice Tower review. My name is Chris Yee. Have yourselves a fantastic day.